Thank you very much, everyone. After the panel, it's also very emotional for me because I saw how much effort you put on this good conference. I also attended a couple of professional events, and most of the time people were just checking their clock, what time they're gonna leave from the conference. But in here, I can see these sparkles in people's eyes. It's so nice. I just would like to ask for another round of applause for the organizers, please. So today I'm gonna talk about something a bit related to also Greek. It's about multilingual Django applications. Before starting, I also would like to make a small exercise with our arms. Can you raise your arms if you are developed a project before Django with before? Half of the crowd, nice. So have you developed a multilingual applications with Django before, maybe? Nice. So this is a perfect talk for you because there is a content for you. You're gonna at least have something in your mind after the talk. So let me introduce myself. I'm Efe. I'm originally from Turkey, but I live in Netherlands. I worked in a couple of early phase startups as a founding engineer. Right now I'm working at SendCloud as a senior engineer. I have a blog at efe.me. And I also try to be active in the community, give back to the community. I'm a mentor in Django Girls Amsterdam, and I try to also participate to Django NL. I like Django mostly, and the talk is also related to Django. I like Python. I like the recent LLMs, and I'm mostly backend person. And I also like boring technology. If you don't know this term, please check after the presentation. You're gonna find it interesting, in my opinion. So this is me. I like playing backgammon. This is me and my co-founder. We got investment. No, just kidding. I like running. Okay, what is the agenda from today? So the first we're gonna touch about what is the multilingual application, more like textbook definition. Then we're gonna touch how we can understand the language of user. Then we're gonna deep dive to the Django side. We're gonna talk about how we can do this type of Django web framework. In the fourth step, we're gonna talk about how we can automate this type of things with AI. And then I think this is also something can learn something interesting for experts in Django, I guess. So what is multilingual application? Multilingual application is an app which serves more than one language. You can think about texts on buttons or emails, everything. So if application serves more than one language, it's a multilingual application. And it's not only about the language itself, it's also about how we show the data. For example, in the second item, you're gonna see that the data representation is actually different in European Union and in United States. For example, 13th of December looks like this. In European Union, we put a day in front of the date notation, but in US, it's the opposite. And in the multilingual application, users also can change the language. This is also a must for us. Also, in the fourth step, as you can see, we should have support for different writing styles. In English, it's from left to right, but in Arabic, it should be right to left. But today, we're gonna touch only the first and third items, how we're gonna have translatable backend applications. So most of the time we write the application in one language, and the best practice is doing it in English, because when we are defining our variables, we should also follow the same language with the text. So as a best practice, I usually suggest English for this, even though your application is also going to be mostly used in Greek, for example. And we should differentiate the strings. Are they going to be user-facing strings or mostly for backend purposes? So if they are user-facing strings, we should define them translatable. But if they are not, we don't need to deal with the translations, because translations actually brings cost for us. So, okay, now we know a bit of what is multilingual application. Now we can move to the how we can understand the user language. This is actually one of the common questions in coding interviews. They usually ask you, okay, if I go to pythongreece.com, what's going to happen on the background? Most people talk about, okay, there's a DNS, we're going to look up the DNS, where is the IP address, we're going to do this type of things. But actually, I would like to touch something about more high level, which is a HTTP protocol. It is called content negotiation. But negotiation of what? I summarized them in 4 items. The first one is media type. For example, you can have an application, a mobile application, which only works with JSON responses. So therefore, you should send in the request header as an application JSON. So therefore, your browser, your mobile application should say, when they are making a request, for what type of things it is eligible to render. And the second thing is character encoding. So we have different character encodings, and most common one is UTF-8, and it's all browsers also send this information as accept charset. And in the third one, this is related to our talk, which is accept language. So as you know, in the operating system, we define which languages which we can use in keyboards, in other stuff. So therefore, our operating system gets this information, gives to the browser. Then browser puts this information to every HTTP request. So therefore, websites can understand which languages can we interpret. And the fourth one is about accept encoding. For example, if you like to compress your website with gzip and reduce the transfer times, you can also use different accept encodings, but not all of them are supported by every browser. For example, broadly wasn't supported by Safari for a long time. So therefore, the server is not going to send broadly compressed files. Okay, we know that accept language is a standard, but we shouldn't fully depend on this. Because why? Imagine that you are using someone else's computer, and this might be in Chinese, in Turkish, a language you don't know. So therefore, you need to have a way to change language in any application. But this is a good practice to have, accept language is a default language. And as I mentioned, it's nice practice to have this drop down for anonymous users or authenticated users to toggle their language. And if they are unauthenticated, it's a bit hard to keep it in database. So therefore, it's also good practice to keep it in the session. And if they are already authenticated, you can keep it in the user model. And I also check a bit what type of weird or unorthodox multilingual applications. And I found this website, which is called Transfermarkt. Is there anyone who is into football? Yes, I think you know that. And this website is a bit weird way to have a multilingual applications. I think they were super rich. They got all the domains with the Transfermarkt, and they are doing routing by checking their TLD codes. Like, for example, for Greek language, they have GR. So if you go transfermarkt.gr, it renders in Greek. But this is an expensive method. I don't suggest this. Okay, what is our checklist for detecting the user's language? If the user is unauthenticated, have default for accept language. Then if they toggle the language, keep it in the session, rely on session. And if they are authenticated, please get the information from user.language. Okay, it was mostly HTTP protocol principles. It can be applied for any backend application if you write with Ruby or any PHP framework. So let's talk about Python and Django. So this is a simple code snippet from Django views. And Django, under the hood, uses a library called getText. GetText is actually created for Linux or maybe in GNU world, which is used for mostly almost all open source or free softwares. And Django, instead of creating a new standard, they just use this existing software, but they just wrote a wrapper for this getText. And you can see there is a request in the my view, and it just returns an output which is welcome to my site. And also, yesterday Jan made a talk about import, and this is also one of the examples for this. There is a common way to use getText alias because you're gonna use getText in most of the strings. So therefore, instead of importing all the time with getText, we import it as underscore and we call it underscore whenever we use. But there is a trick in here. We also had a couple of talks about T strings, but I would like to talk about F strings. So in F strings, you can pass, you can get the name and pass the F string directly like this. But F strings actually calculated or evaluated before the getText. So therefore, we are not going to have the context in here. So therefore, please don't use F strings when you have a multilingual application. Also, you can make translators' life easier. And if you have a bit generic text, you can always put a comment and you can have a translator's prefix, and this context is going to send to the translator. And of course, we also have plurals. And when we have plurals, sometimes we might change a behavior of text. For example, in here, there is one object, or there are 3 objects. So therefore, we cannot use getText for this, and there is a specific method for it, which is called getText. So up to now, it's more about views, sending emails, this type of things about request response cycle. But when we run a Django application, we also pass from some codes. For example, model definitions. And when Django application iterates over the model definitions, actually there is no user in the context. So therefore, we should use a lazy getText in here. Whenever this method is called, Django is going to call the function inside of the view or related code. Okay, we covered how we can declare a translatable text in our Django applications. The second step is we need to define our settings, what type of languages we would like to support. And as I said before, we should most probably have English as a default language. Then we can define the other languages in here. And I defined Greek in here as a second language. Then we need to set the local middleware after the session middleware in our settings. It comes with default. Django has good defaults, so when you boot up a new project, it's the correct order. But if you change the orders, please be careful about it, because otherwise you might have a weird translated responses. Then, as you know, we defined this translatable text, we defined our languages. Now it's time to create our text. What type of text we are going to translate? And for this, you're going to run a Django management command, which is Python managed by make migrations. You can also pass languages to this management command, but I just wanted to list all versions. And you're going to see this example file. Let's check this together. Basically, it has 2 files, two pairs for everything, which is message ID and message string. Message ID is the ID of string which we are going to translate, and message string is equivalent of it in the target language. And as you can see, this is a file for Greek languages. If we have multiple languages in our application, we're going to have, for example, a Turkish file for this. Then you need to find the translator. I think this is the most time-consuming part. You need to upload file, they're gonna translate, you're gonna download it, and most of time you have out-of-sync translations because of it. I think this is the most time-consuming part. It is not a technical problem, it's more like a business problem, but I have something for you. But I'm gonna explain later. Let's complete our flow first. So then we find the translator. If translator fill these empty strings, then we need to compile these messages to more files, because POV files is not readable for Django application. And this is our basically a flow. This is our checklist. We define our get texts, which text should be translated. We define the languages. We use middleware. Then we started to start the translation process. We said we're gonna use make migrations. We find the translator. We compile the messages. Yes. Now we are speaking Greek. We speak Greek. But as I said, having a translator is an expensive thing. And with recent LLMs, I would like to optimize this. So this is a package which I implemented. It is called YesCloud. It is a simple Django app which you can use in your applications. You can check the QR code. What it does, it actually introduces a new management command to your Django application. And you can just call manage by translate messages. And it is going to iterate over all of your languages and get the empty strings sent to the LLM and write the responses back to the files. And it is going to also batch the untranslated strings. So therefore, you are going to also pay less for any LLM provider. And this is the result of it for Greek language. To be honest, I cannot speak Greek. Maybe you can decide is it a good thing or bad thing. Yeah. But how we can install it in our application? Basically, you can just say pip install YesCloud. Then you just need to add YesCloud to your installed applications. Then it works with LLMs. You can use any LLMs. It can be from cloud, it can be from Google, it can be from OpenAI. It uses Light LLM under the hood, and it supports more than 100 LLMs. So this is the new checklist I suggest. Instead of finding a translator, I just ask you to stay in your terminal, just run translate messages management command, and everything is gonna work smooth as butter, I hope. So it works with more than 100 LLMs. It keeps the placeholders, just one management command. It also prints out the cost of your translations. And it also batches, so therefore you're gonna pay less and it's gonna take less time. It is of course free to use, also free to contribute. You can see open issues in the package. If you would like to contribute to open source, you can take any issue from here. If you'd like to talk with me, we can talk about it and add these features together. And Etemo, this is the end for my talk. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.